Well, I guess I do have a problem. I love bad bitches. That's my fucking problem. What's up, my dudes? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the actual MXGP 4 possibilities here. And just letting you guys know, I've been posting a lot more to my Instagram at Spencer Turley, no space, no capital. I know for the longest time I didn't post at all, but I've actually started doing like daily posts over there, some funny ass videos and some funny pictures and stuff too as well. So if you want to go check that out, just letting you know it's there. For me, I always like to look at the long-term aspects of anything and like sort of like what's the real point to it? What's the real end goal there? And I feel like a lot of people don't ever really think about that with certain things. And with a motocross game or any game for that matter, what are you really trying to get out of it in the long-term goal, more so than just like hopping on there and playing it and enjoying it for a little while and then stop playing it? Like, what's the real point to what you're doing? And for me, like, MX Simulator is that motocross game where it's just like you really don't need any more than that. I'm not really looking for any other game out there. I mean, MX Simulator is that game for me. You're never going to get better physics than MX Simulator. You can't beat something that's perfect. So, you know, it's one of those things like, I think that's the biggest aspect to a motocross game is the way the bike feels and the skill gap, because that's what keeps you coming back for years and years and years. I mean, yeah, better graphics are cool. Yeah, terrain deformation is cool. Yeah, all this other stuff is cool, but if the bike doesn't feel right and it doesn't have an actual skill to it that you have to get better at, and it's actually a true skill gap and not just like a basic bitch simplistic skill gap, then, you know, what's the point to it if it doesn't have that? Like, you're just going to come out with another game and another game and another game, and what you used to spend all that time on before to get good at, well, the game they have out now is not even like that game. So it's kind of pointless, you know? Like with MX Simulator, it seems like, with me anyways, the time I put into it is always going to mean something, you know? It's always going to have like an actual core feeling of accomplishment and actual reason with it. But like if you go back and play MXGP, the original MXGP game, and you're really good at that or whatever, nobody really gives a shit. You know, it's like whatever the newest arcade motocross game is, that's the thing you have to be good at. No one cares about what you were good at way back when. So it gets kind of weird with arcade games. I wish they could, in a perfect world, I wish they could make like an arcade game that was like MX Simulator, but it was just a little bit easier, so that basically you could have like a PC motocross game that had super good physics, but it was an arcade-based motocross game, and it had all the same amount of customization with tracks and custom tracks and the ease of building custom tracks like MX Simulator has, and the community and the pro racing and all of that, all within like one big hub. Basically what I'm saying is like an MX Simulator arcade edition or something like that that actually had a really good arcade mode on it and a really good, so that way your people that weren't trying to be super hardcore, they could play that and then spend all their time on that and get really good at that, and then make that the thing that they put all their time into and everything. And Reflex kind of was that for a long time. It was that super monster arcade motocross game that had all these custom tracks, had a lot of longevity. But with like MXGP 3, you know, if you're thinking about, well, okay, they're going to come out with MXGP 4 eventually, whether it be like next year or the next year, well, what are you really getting with that? The same MXGP series of tracks? It may look a little bit better, but I mean, what's the point? You get what I'm saying? Like, if there's no, like, a lot of differences within your tracks and actual content, then eventually it's going to get boring and dry. That's just the way it is. And that's why MX Simulator and Reflex has flourished for so long, is because of how many custom tracks there are. That's the whole key and trick to the longevity of a motocross game. But like a lot of times with your AAA or close to AAA arcade motocross games nowadays, I mean, they just come out with a certain amount of tracks, and then they come out with DLC, and then that's it. That's pretty much all there is to the game. So, I mean, as far as like an MXGP4, they're going to have to come up with something more than just the MXGP series, because that's not going to cut it, dude. Like, that's going to get old. I don't care how much you improve your physics and your this and your that. You could add 50s and 500s, but if you never add more content as far as what you're riding on and tracks and types of tracks, then it's just eventually never going to survive in a long-term sense. And that's just something I've really thought long and hard about. I mean, you know, they need to have supercross tracks, they need to have trail tracks, they need to have free ride tracks, they need to have not only the MXGP series of tracks, but even a couple more different random motocross tracks all in one game, and change it up and do something. And that's the only way it's really going to survive like that. It's just, you know, you can't have the same exact tracks every single year and expect people to continue to buy that. I mean, they're going to keep doing it right now because you're adding such big elements like terrain deformation and weather effects, and the graphics look amazing, and, you know, two-strokes and stuff like that. But eventually you're going to run out of that little shit to add, and you're going to have to add as far as like bigger things like actual tracks and types of racing and game modes, and, you know, it's going to have to change up in that sense to have any more variation to it. So yeah, I don't know, and I understand the game is called MXGP. I totally understand that, and that's kind of their goal, is to make the MXGP series. But I'm just saying, like, you know, it's going to have something eventually, or some other motocross game is going to take over in the arcade sense. And Reflex was a monster. Like, if they could just make something that was like Reflex, but just improved in every aspect, as far as like graphics and different, a lot more different, newer tracks on it, but still had somewhat of a similar feeling, kind of like a Reflex 2, like I talked about in a different video. If they had that, and then had very easy in-game track making software in there and all that stuff, oh dude, I mean, that would be the killer game. Like, that's what they need to make. I don't know what the fuck they're doing messing around with like all this random shit. They need to make a Reflex 2. It's simple, really. That's what people want. It really is. People just want a Reflex 2 with newer tracks, newer trail tracks, newer supercross tracks, newer motocross tracks, two-strokes, 500cc bikes, 50cc bikes, you know, 125s, 252 strokes, 254 strokes, 454 strokes, all that different stuff, multiplayer racing, easy to build online custom tracks, all that stuff within one arcade game. And I'm telling you, people eat that shit up all week long, all year long, all decade long. You know, it's just, there needs to be something like MX Simulator in every way, but it's just an arcade version. That's what needs to happen here. So that's kind of my own opinion on it. I mean, I like the improvements they made from MXGP 2 to 3, don't get me wrong, but you just got to think of it in a super long-term sense. Like, what are they going to do to keep everybody interested for the next one, and the next one, and the next one? You know, MXGP 7, like, if it's the same fucking tracks, then I'm telling you, people are eventually going to shy away from that. They're eventually going to be like, I'm just picturing, like, if Untamed, you know, had just the actual AMA national tracks, and that was it. It didn't have anything else on it. And then Reflex came out, and it had just the AMA national tracks, nothing else on it. And then Alive came out, and it had just the AMA motocross tracks, nothing else. Not supercross, not trail riding, not free riding, nothing. And then, you know, the next MX vs. ATV game comes out, and it has only the AMA motocross tracks, nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. You know, like, eventually people are going to give up on that. It has to change as far as your content. It just has to. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.